Welcome back, everyone. It's here. And today I've got some r/BestOf for you all. As per usual, I'll be reading you the posts, giving you my opinions, and I hope you do the same down in the comments below. And without further ado, let's jump right into it. This post was collected by Lucy Aria Rose, and their tagline is, "I'm keeping the garlic." The original poster is throwaway 48, 47, 27, 28, 49, 5, posted to r/advice June 5th, 2025. I, 17 female, got a call from the police about a work incident and want me to come in to talk. Do I go in? I, 17 female, have been working at a local grocery store for 2 years. It's a great place to work, and I really would hate to lose my job. This morning, I got a phone call from the police telling me they have been made aware of an incident at the grocery store that involves me, and they want me to come into the station to discuss what it's about. I told them I have a shift this morning. They told me to call in sick and come to the station. The only thing I can think it's about is that I've been taking old bakery items and produce at the end of the days when I'm closing. The food either gets sent away as a donation or thrown in the trash. I always make sure I'm not taking from the donation selection. The manager told me it's okay to do this, but I know the owner wouldn't approve. I'm freaking out. Am I going to be charged with stealing? Would I get in this much trouble for taking expired cookies at the end of my shift? I don't even think the owner could prove I've done this. There aren't any cameras at the back room with the garbage. I don't think the manager would tell on me since he tells me and offers me these things. Do I go in? Help. I told the police that I'll see what I can do about work and get back to them. Some of OP's comments. OP clarifies. Sorry, yes, they did tell me to bring an adult with me. Both my parents are at work, and I was super afraid to call them to tell them and confess I've been stealing. I guess it's stealing. But I think I need to call them. We'll do that now. Commenter, there's a minimum dollar amount for a theft to be considered a crime, if you will. And I want to say it's normally about $700, and it has to be in one theft. If it's below the minimum of whatever it is in your jurisdiction, it's likely a misdemeanor, and you can't be prosecuted from what I remember. I used to work in high-value specialty retail, so I had to know these rules. OP responds, that's a relief, because I really don't think I've been taking over $700 in expired food. The police did give their badge numbers and names to write down to give to my parents. I've tried calling my parents, but they're both at work and didn't pick up. Sent them texts. My shift isn't for another 2 hours, so I'm going to wait for my parents before calling the manager. Update 1, same post, about 8 minutes later. I texted my parents and my mom just called. She told me she called the police and that she's coming to pick me up in a half hour to go to the station. She sounded really upset, but not at me. She told me that I'm not in trouble, but to not even call my work. What is going on? Update 2, same post, sometime in the next several hours. Wow. Okay, thank you all for the advice. I took the initial ones I read and got my parents involved right away. My mom was a boss. I have to think about what I can update and get back to you all later, because it's honestly really bad. Like nightmare fuel, and just legally bad. I'm okay, I think, was at the station for a few hours. I'm not in trouble. It was not about stealing cookies, but it's far from over. Sorry for being so vague. Update 3. Same post, June 6th, 2025, the next day. First, I wanted to clarify. The police were not suggesting that I go in without my parents. They called and asked to speak to my parents. When I told them they were not home, they asked me to get them to call them back. When I asked what it was about, they told me the above. When I told them I can't come in today because I'm working, they told me it was important and to do what I needed to do to call in sick. I apologize for not being more clear about that phone call. A lot of you were concerned the police were trying to take advantage of me. Thank you for caring. I was just freaking out, thinking I was going to get in trouble for stealing old bakery items that the manager told me I could take. I've never been in trouble before, so I was mortified. I'd have to confess this to my parents. The first few commenters were telling me to talk to my parents, which kind of snapped me out of it. And like, duh, I need to talk to my parents. So I did, pretty quickly. I don't know what the police told my mom, but she got home faster than she said and took me straight there. My dad was there when we got there. I was freaking out, even though my mom told me it wasn't about me stealing and to not worry about that. She also called my work and told them I wouldn't be coming in for my shift. On to the update. The previous manager was filming employees changing and using the bathroom. An old coworker was tipped off by someone that they found a video of her on some website. There were dozens of videos posted of multiple girls over many years using the bathroom and changing in the bathroom. I am one of those girls. The only video I saw of myself that they wanted to verify it was me was of me going into the washroom to put my hair up and putting lip gloss on in the mirror. I know there is more, but I didn't want to see it. There was a whole team there of mostly female officers, counselors, etc. I was actually pretty impressed by how they presented and handled it all, because, well, like so many of you, I don't trust cops, and they've never really made me feel safe. The old manager was arrested. I'm not sure when, but it was before they called me. They got my number from the original victim who gave out numbers of all the female employees that she had. It's a whole thing. I was asked many questions. I was also asked to identify 2 unknown victims, like a screenshot from a video. Seems like they're customers who somehow got access to the employee bathroom because no one can identify them. It's been a lot to process. I always thought that guy was a creep. He's the nephew of the owner. I fucking wish it was about pastries. Some of OP's comments. Commenter. From the way your mom reacted, I knew this is what it would be. But I didn't want to creep you out or worry you if I was wrong. I am so sorry this happened to you. I'm glad your parents are advocating for you. Don't allow anyone to minimize or sweep this under the rug. Ask for therapy. Call the police with any questions. There are websites you can go to sign up that will alert you if the creep is ever released from jail. If you want to be involved in the legal process in order to stand up for yourself with something like a victim impact statement that can be used in court, ask the police about it. OP responds, a few people guessed it, but I already knew by the time I called back and tried to read all the comments. My parents have me set up with therapy tomorrow. I don't feel like I need it, but I understand how these things can grow. Commenter. Oh my god. I wish I could give you a hug, if you would want one. That is so scary. I'm glad the police took it seriously, and it sounds like set you up with some counselor contacts and resources. Make sure you keep those, and even if you don't opt to use them right away, you might want to in the future. Human brains are funny about how they process stuff. OP responds, thanks. Apparently this has been an investigation for a while now. The OG victim stopped working there about 3 years ago, which means he's been filming in there since before I worked there. But he only left 6 months ago, so was filming while I was 15. So gross. OP on going back to work. I won't be going back to work there. It's too creepy. And to another commenter, thanks. My mom told me to take the summer off work and have fun, but I like working, so I'm going to find a new job. Smiley face. Commenter. Glad they caught him, and I'm sorry this happened to you. You seem like a very kind and nice person being so worried about eating day-old items you were told you could eat. It's nice to see people with a conscience, but don't be so tough on yourself. OP responds, it seems so silly now that I was so worried about cookies. I think to avoid the guilt in the future, I'll just not do anything that makes me feel a little uneasy. Save myself the stress. Commenter. Recommend that your mother speak to an attorney. It's disgusting, and the ex-manager and store need to be sued and him jailed. Nothing is going to make this right, so to speak. But a lawsuit, if successful, may help with college expenses and or therapy should you need it. OP responds, I haven't agreed yet, but they are putting together a whole charge on him with any of the girls that want to press charges. Parents are talking about suing the store. Commenter. Hindsight is certainly 20/20, but I just gotta laugh at all the people on here talking out of their asses. Don't trust the police. Tell them to get a warrant, etc. And they were acting in a capacity to protect this young lady and others who had been victimized by this weirdo manager. This should serve as a lesson. Maybe we're all too damn opinionated about things we know very little about. OP responds, the first commenters were so helpful, telling me to talk to my parents. I'm kind of glad I didn't check back here before doing just so. I probably would have gotten really scared. Personally, I'm very much in favor of OP seeking some kind of legal retribution for the kind of shit they were put through, because that's just vile, and they should definitely go after pressing charges and, potentially, look at suing the store. Because considering that it sounds as though there might be some nepotism involved, I'm sure the store probably has some culpability involved with this. And yeah, I kinda wish it was with the pastries too, OP. I mean, I can't even imagine what that would feel like, or what that would be like to go through that. That's indeed nightmarish and horrible. Here's to hoping the guy ends up rotting in prison for a while and ends up on the registry, assuming he gets out of prison. Cross-posted from Direct Caterpillar 77, and their tagline is, "Satan is not a pogo stick." This is actually an external post to Ask a Manager, which I would highly recommend taking a look at their website. It's a really solid advice column, and we've actually featured some of their stories here in the past. This was posted all the way back July 16th, 2011. Is my parents' advice destroying my job search? Since I came home from my first year of college in May, I've been looking for a new job to no success. I haven't even gotten so far as to be interviewed despite having been on the job hunt since May. Finally, in mid-July, I'm getting a glimmer of hope. The bakery department of the supermarket, where I've been a part-time cashier/bagger for over 2 years now, is seeking help. Not only would I enjoy working at the bakery, but I would receive more hours. I'm very hopeful that I'll get this job because I've always exceeded expectations in every performance review and am overall a very good employee. However, I worry the advice my parents are giving me might screw up my chances of getting this job. My parents, who have both not had to worry about getting a job since the early 90s, tell me to visit the manager and check in on the application at least once a day, or call to check in on it. I feel like this would be very annoying for the manager, and I don't want to come off as annoying. Earlier this summer, I was applying to a coffee shop and took their advice. I went in every day, asked for the manager, and explained who I was, that I had applied, and that I just wanted to check in on the application. My parents even told me to call later in the day too, which I refused to do, thinking it would just be nagging. I apparently made an impact there, because the third time I came into the coffee shop, the head barista looked at me, sighed very loudly, and said, "I'll go get him." 5 minutes later, I was being interviewed by the manager, for 1 minute. Literally. I was asked 3 questions, which were just to verify information on the application, and then told to stop calling them. They never called back. My parents still tell me to call them. I feel like it's beating a dead horse at this point. I'm worried that the advice my parents are giving me is one of the reasons why I seem to struggle to get a job. They tell me that nothing has changed in the almost 20 years since they've gotten their jobs, and that what worked for them will work for me. I really want to get this position at the bakery. What advice would you give me? Or are my parents' strategy correct? Update, December 3rd, 2019, 8 years later. Sometimes when work is slow, I like to hit "Surprise Me" on your website, and I was truly surprised when I came across a question I had sent in over 8 years ago. I remembered that I'd emailed you, exasperated with my parents' advice, and you had responded. I felt so validated and reassured by what you said. I did, funnily enough, become a barista later on, but I was a liberal arts major, and that was my fate. A few years after the incident I had emailed about, my parents relocated for my father's work. My mother then got to experience firsthand the joys of modern job hunting. I had to show her how to make a resume, how to turn it into a PDF, and how to upload it, and reassure her that yes, even though you just uploaded that PDF, you now have to retype all of that information again. She had relocated to the other side of the country and had no network or any modern tools one uses to get a job nowadays. She didn't even bother to check to see what the process was to transfer her nursing license, and spent months unemployed while that was getting figured out. I think she just thought she could walk into a hospital and get a job, like she had in the 90s. Experiencing their bad advice firsthand ended most of their vintage notions. I'm now newly 27. Your advice was to trust my instincts, and I have. I worked a myriad of odd jobs during and after college, and kind of flitted around trying to figure myself out. My parents offered lots of advice for what I should do, and I have done none of it. After settling into an office job a few years ago, I just accepted a position as an office manager, which will come with a 25% raise. A great thing to get right before my wedding this winter. I read up on your posts on negotiating salary and vacation time and interviewing. You've been a resource for me for almost a decade now. Thank you for the validation you gave my younger self. She was new and deeply insecure, and you allowed her a moment where she could print out a blog post and yell, "See? You're the wrong one!" at her poor, misguided mother. I think I may have even hung up your response on our fridge. Hopefully I'll never have to write for your advice again. Smiley face. Again, if you're ever in a position where you have like job-related questions, Ask a Manager is a pretty good resource. Just genuinely, it's a good advice column. Like, this whole story takes place like almost 15 years ago. This is before we had like the introduction of AI interviews and AI scanners that read through your resume and all the other bullshit tools that they've implemented. I don't know if you guys have stumbled upon any of those videos or articles about the fact that some companies are now using an AI job interviewer to interview, and it's just goofy. The days of walking into a gas station or any kind of service employment position and just simply demanding the job is now completely over. And nowadays the entire process is just simply offloaded onto some sort of third-party site that just allows them to upload and check resumes. So, yeah. My personal current recommendation is before you upload a resume, Google current ways to beat the AI resume bot and see what little tips and tricks you can throw into your resume to make it more likely that you place an interview. Oftentimes, I'm sure this probably may have been patched out, but you just copy and paste the entirety of the job requirements and just put it as white text, extremely small font in your resume. The bot will read over it and probably kick it to someone so that it's more likely you'll actually have a human look over your resume instead of the auto-decline bot. If you have any tips and tricks to share in the comments, please do so. I'm sure somebody could probably benefit greatly from them. This post was collected by iGlad3032, and their tagline is, "Your partner is trash and your marriage is toast." The original OP is Throw a Sus Girlfriend, posted August 29th, 2020 to r/relationship advice. My 26 male, girlfriend, 24 female, has opened up to me extensively about the abuse she suffered. Her stories are starting to contradict each other, and I'm starting to suspect something. Content warning for emotional abuse, manipulation, gaslighting, fabricated trauma, abuse, lying, deception, emotional distress, and fabricated rape. I'm currently in a 3-year relationship with a 24-year-old woman named Kathy. I'll spare you all the details about her personality, but I love her dearly. I fully intend to marry her when the time is right for both of us. On our first date, Kathy warned me that she had PTSD from past trauma. Some of the things that she's told me have been so devastating that they made me physically ill. As we talked and ate, she told me that she lost her virginity to her stepfather forcing himself on her when she was asleep. I, a grown-ass man, started crying in the middle of the restaurant. She assured me that she was in therapy and was working through her issues. As time has gone on, more and more details about her past have come up. I'm incredibly happy that she's willing to share all of this with me because I want to support her. But there have been so many contradictions that I'm confused. I don't even know how to bring them up. Here are several of the ones that make the least sense. She told me that her biological father kicked her so hard when she was 7 that it broke her wrist in 2 places. Later, when we were taking a bike ride together, she said, "I've never broken a bone and don't intend to now." She told me that her mother used to put a belt, a stick, and a wrench on the table and tell her to choose. She said she picked the wrench because, fuck her, that's why. This is a scene from Good Will Hunting, told almost ad verbatim. She has no marks or scars from this. She told me that after her stepfather abused her for several months, she lived with her grandparents for the rest of high school. Later, she contradicted herself and said she was homeless and couch surfing for her last 2 years of high school. She told me that she dropped out of high school because she had to escape from a gang who was trying to make her work as a prostitute. But when I met her, she was a student at a reputable university. She never went to community college. I don't think it's even possible to get into a school like that with nothing more than a GED. She told me that to cope with her past trauma, she did almost every drug and was barely sober for more than a week for 2 years. Later, when we smoked weed together, she got super high and said she had never tripped harder. I don't think someone who has done LSD and mushrooms would say that after smoking pot. It doesn't make sense. I feel like a monster for asking, but was she even abused? I could understand 1 or 2 contradictions based on some inaccurate memories, but really? Why the movie scene monologue? Why does everything point to her having a privileged upbringing with the brand new Range Rover she bought as a freshman and fancy college degree with no debt? I don't know how to bring this up or how to make sense of any of this. I can't bring the issue up because if she was abused, it would crush her to be doubted. Too long didn't read. My girlfriend has wild stories about her past abuse, but they're making less and less sense every time she talks about them. As much as I don't want to doubt her, They keep escalating and making less sense. Relevant comments. Donut minimum. Can you bring it up immediately when it happens? Her. I've never broke a bone. You. Wasn't your wrist broken when you were 7? OP responds. At the time I raised an eyebrow, but I thought she was blocking out her abuse or something. I didn't want to bring up old bad memories. The real Van Morrison comments. Compulsive liar by the sounds of it. Knew a few in college with the exact same kind of track record. The girl in the dorm room next to me only got caught when the RA called her mom to say the girl needed more support given the recent death of her uncle. And mom said she never had an uncle. All of a sudden, about 20 stories started to unravel. OP responds. I have suspected that she is a compulsive liar, but aside from the outlandish and self-contradicting abuse stories, I can't find anything that she's ever lied to me about. Maybe she hides her other lies better. Would it make sense for a compulsive liar to only lie when it comes to one subject? Struthio Ovum comments, aren't Range Rovers over 50K? Yes, the base model, on the lowest possible trim with no added options. And no debt from a fancy college? Sounds like she's lying through her teeth. OP responds, yeah, I looked at the price of her car when it was new. Well over 50K. 02201970A comments, sure it sounds like she made it all up. Have you met her family? OP responds, at least one detail I'm fairly sure that's true is she hates her family. I've never met them. Update, September 14th, 2020. Less than a month later. Hi again, everybody. A lot of people have expressed interest in an update to my situation, and since the situation is finally resolved, I figured I would take a minute to write out what happened. Admittedly, this actually ended last week, and spoiler alert, I spent the following several days moving out. I haven't had a chance to update. A whole lot of thoughts on the matter have been stewing, so I'm afraid this is going to be long. For those of you who just want to know what happened and move on, she lied. We broke up. She tried to save our relationship by lying. I've ghosted her. For everyone else, my last post can be found here. A short synopsis of the situation is that my girlfriend spent the entirety of our relationship opening up to me about how she suffered horrific abuse from just about everyone in her personal life. Yet her stories did not add up in the slightest. After reading through nearly every single response to my post, I came to two conclusions. One, my girlfriend was lying about, at the very least, the extent of her abuse, and two, she was only going to continue escalating these lies unless I put a stop to it. Many people told me both in comments and DMs that if I were to directly confront her about my suspicions, she would immediately gaslight me, or deflect by calling me a monster for not believing her. I agreed this was likely, and so I went the route of stalking her on social media. I'm not proud of it, but I spent well over 10 hours stalking her on Facebook. I hadn't logged into Facebook since early in our relationship, but she seemed to be using it fairly often. Through my search, I discovered two things that she couldn't possibly explain away. She has another Facebook she uses for close friends and family. The Facebook page she has me on is reserved for friends from online games, giveaways, and so on. This all came to light when I started messaging her Facebook friends. I sent them a copy-pasted message. Hey, I'm Clara's boyfriend. I know this is out of the blue, but would you mind if I ask you a question? I wanted to get her a gift and was hoping for a bit of advice. The majority of people didn't respond. Fair enough. I assume many of the messages got automatically filtered. Of those who did respond, the vast majority didn't really know Clara, or only knew her online or didn't remember her at all. It was bizarre. Where were her college friends? Her not having high school friends would be right in line with what she told me before, but I know she has friends from college because she hangs out with them regularly, or at least she did until we went into lockdown. Eventually, I figured it out. She had another Facebook. It was a total stroke of luck that led me to it. She happened to have one single friend who was on both of her Facebook pages, and when stalking her friends' pages, I found my girlfriend's second page. On her real Facebook page, everything she told me completely unraveled. Dozens of high school friends, pictures from her high school days ranging from class trips to dressing room pictures of her trying on new clothes to her sweet 16, pictures with her parents with whom she seemed very happy to be having her picture taken, pictures of her standing in front of a very large, very non-ghetto suburban house. Then I found the picture of her standing in front of her brand new Range Rover. At this point, I had already decided our relationship was over. There's no explaining that. If she had mental illness so severe that she had deluded herself into believing everything she told me, she needed therapy, not a boyfriend. If all of those stories were just plain old lies, I wouldn't even know what to feel. Taking advice from the last post, I decided to ask about the Range Rover. I wanted to expose her and figured it was an innocent enough topic to bring up out of the blue. She was sitting on the couch reading a magazine, and so I walked up and asked her about her car. I said it was really nice, and if she had inherited some money or something to be able to afford it. She gave me a long, theatrical inhale and exhale. She then asked me to promise not to be shocked, but it was Pandora's box. Knowing that she was about to feed me another helping of bullshit, I told her I wanted to hear it anyway. She covered up the Range Rover purchase by telling me that when she was homeless, she was forced into prostitution by an abusive pimp. She said that with the money she saved by overcharging clients and hiding tips from him, she was eventually able to afford the car. Then she asked if I still loved her despite her past. So that was the end of that. I called her a liar on the spot. Aside from everything else, what really ticked me off about this lie is street prostitutes don't make nearly enough money in tips to be able to buy an expensive car and pay for a college education. Then I told her that I saw her real Facebook. All of those pictures. And for the first time in our relationship, she didn't have an explanation. I started my move out the next morning. The lease be damned. And finally, was done with it in 3 days. She's frantically texted me saying she could explain, and she was ready to tell me the truth. Yeah, the truth. I'm almost tempted to ask her for it just so I can experience another wild tale. Maybe this time it's being about her experience with witness protection on the run from the mafia or some other ludicrous story. Thanks again for all the advice and help, everyone. I feel like a total idiot for wasting 3 years of my life with her, but I have high hopes for my future. I'm going to take a break from dating for a while, though. Right now, I'm staying at a buddy's house who's been nothing short of amazing. She does not know where I am. Too long didn't read, yes, she was lying. She had a second Facebook where she hid her real life. She wants to explain things to me, and I think I would rather get my teeth pulled out with a wrench. Relevant comments. Wonderful rush. She sounds like a narcissist, to be honest. I know someone exactly like this. Also, you called her Kathy in your other post? OP responds, haha, yeah, I screwed up and thought she was Clara before. It's been 2 weeks. Her real name looks nothing like either. User Eclectic Victuals comments, one thing I don't understand is you mentioned the Range Rover in your original post, but I don't see it referenced in any of your stories. It sounded in this post like seeing her with the Range Rover was a surprise, but it was just that she got it as a teenager. Also, have you contemplated messaging her parents? It's kind of surprising that somebody with all of those stories wouldn't have her Facebook locked down. I would almost post something and tag her. The whole thing is so weird and sick, and I'm sorry you experienced it. And yes, if you've been on this ride for this long, I would be curious to know what the truth really is. OP responds, the Range Rover thing was because despite her roller coaster teens, she somehow was able to afford it. Brand new, from her first year of college. That made no sense to me. She never really went into detail about it, and I never asked until I decided to confront her about it. I've dealt with something similar, but never to this extreme. Because while you're hearing stories that contradict each other, the last thing you want to do is to be the person that places doubt on someone's personal experiences of abuse. And sometimes it can take a while for the cracks of their stories to begin to show themselves. And the reason why I could ever imagine that someone would ever make up stories like this about their childhood or their past is for the attention that comes with it. All the benefits of a traumatic backstory, but none of the baggage that actually comes with it. And additionally, this also begs the question of, at what point is it okay to question someone's trauma? Because you don't want to make them relive something or accidentally put them in the spotlight because they may have misremembered a single detail, but at the same time, by letting someone like this that OP had to deal with get away with essentially using the trauma of others to validate or lift themselves up, they're invalidating others around them, casting doubt or potentially taking away the credibility of their own stories or minimizing it. So at what point is the potential harm you might be doing by questioning their trauma justified because of the potential harm they could be doing by faking their trauma? And at what point is that line crossed? Because there is damage being done by people who fake these kinds of abuse, because people who have actually experienced these forms of abuse might feel less inclined to actually speak up about their experiences because, well, I didn't have it as bad, so I should just stay quiet about it. And because they stay quiet, they don't get access to the resources they might need to help recover, because they might feel that those resources are better spent on people who have gone through worse abuse than they have, because they've been led to believe that the abuse they suffered was minuscule compared to that of others. The abuse that was lied about by someone like OP's ex-girlfriend. Let me know in the comments below what you all think. Hey, welcome to the outro. Don't forget this whole thing is basically brought to you by GamerSupps. If you like caffeine, then I can't recommend GamerSupps enough. Use code OZ at checkout to support the channel. And I do actually use this product. It's replaced all other sources of caffeine for me because I feel good. It doesn't have any of that extra stuff that a pre-workout blend might have. It's with a couple of the extra things to make it so you don't crash as hard. It's good. I like it. Personally, if you really want a good flavor, try the Soda Pressing Pear or even the Dragon Fruit Punch. Those two are my personal favorites right now.